Hi, this is Alan Sherman, and this is the Uncivil War, and it's great to be with you again. You know, when we started this a week ago, we posted a couple videos on YouTube. We didn't really know how this was going to go, how it was going to be received, what people were going to think about it. My friends and relatives have been after me for a long time to talk about the Civil War, and so we do a couple of videos, we post them, and wow. I guess I'm not the only one that's interested in the Civil War. The response has been pretty overwhelming. We've had a lot of comments and a bunch of questions. All different kind of questions about the war. And, you know, Jefferson Davis said that these things that we fought for, he said. You know, Jefferson Davis was a great man. You know, a lot of times when people complain about Obama, they complain about this, they complain about that, and they ask me what I think, I say, you know what? My president is Jefferson Davis. Has been and always will be. You know, Jefferson Davis was a United States Senator from Mississippi, and he was Secretary of War under Buchanan, and he was a great man. And he said, very profound when the war was over, he said, these things that we fought for, we're going to fight for them again. He says, I don't know when, and I don't know where. He says, but we're going to fight for them again. And when you look at our country today, I don't think our country has ever been more divided, except maybe in 1861. The country is completely divided. Even when you watch the presidential elections or the senatorial elections, you look at the United States map, there's the blue states and there's the red states, right? The blue states are up here, the red states are down here, and if you draw a line across that, it looks exactly like the map of the states divided during the Civil War. Those 13 states that left the Union of their own free will all did it together in unison. You know, okay, a couple weeks apart or a month apart or whatever, but they all did it together. You couldn't get 13 states to agree on anything now if your life depended on it. But they did it. They had their reasons for doing it, you know, and they have been vilified. They have been put down. And you know what? The arm of political correctness has reached down and grabbed everybody by the hair of the head and shook them, right? And now they have an opinion of the Civil War. And the opinion people have of the Civil War is just like concrete. First, it gets all mixed up, and then it gets set like stone. And you can't change it. You should see the questions I'm getting. Let me give you an example of some of these questions that we have received so far. I'll take off my clear-seeing glasses. I'm not a kid anymore. Here's a question. If a union is held together by force, how can it be a union? You know, that's pretty profound. That is pretty profound. If a union is held together by force, how can you call it a union? Okay? Here's another one. Slavery ended in every other nation in the world without bloodshed. When would it have ended in this nation without bloodshed? That's pretty deep. What about the civil rights problems after the war? How did the war affect the civil rights problems? Explain the deep prejudice in the South. Did the North benefit from slavery prior to the war? That's pretty deep. And here's the one that's the deepest of all. Was Lincoln truly the great emancipator? You know, some people are not going to want to hear the answer to that question. I tell you what's going to happen here, okay? We are going to tell you the truth, and we are not going to be politically correct. And you can't hear anything today on any news channel, except maybe some things on Fox, that isn't politically correct. When you are trying to form your future and make your decisions, you have to do it on the truth. If you don't know the truth, if you weren't taught the truth, when I grew up in school, I was taught the whole time that the South was a bunch of bigots, racists. They were wrong. The North was right. The North was heroes. The South were villains. Lincoln was lifted up on a pedestal like he's the greatest president we ever had. The funny thing is most of the things that we believe today about the War of Northern Aggression, most of them just really aren't very true. Now, there has to be a little bit of truth. See, when you have a deception of any kind, there's always a little bit of truth in it. There's always a little tiny underlying river of truth in there somewhat. But by the time it gets to us, by the time they wrote the history books, the North won the war, they wrote the history books. So you get a politically correct version of how this whole war went. Believe me, Lincoln was anti doing anything about the slaves at the beginning of the war. He even said many times, If I never free a slave, as long as I save the Union, that's all I care about. Lincoln wanted to take all the slaves and load them up and send them back to Africa. Most people don't know that. Most people won't believe that. He's the great emancipator. He did everything he could to free him. But as the war grew on, he became real excited about why. We're going to discuss all that. We're going to talk about it. So this is what I want you to do. I'm going to give you an email address. The email address is real easy to remember. It's Rebelhonor. Just like it sounds. Rebelhonor at AOL.com. Rebelhonor at AOL.com. And you can send me a comment or a question about anything about the war, and we will deal with it. If I have to, I'll go to some of my friends at the SCV that are scholars about the war, and I'll get them to come as a guest, and we'll make sure we get the correct answer, truthful answer, not political correct answer to your question. Second of all, you can go right on Facebook and you can post a question or comment. I'm excited about that. Anything you want to ask, anything you want to know. So this is a little interlude tonight. I thought, well, you know, I'm just going to take a minute because when I thought, I had this thing kind of figured out how I wanted to go. And then when all these questions and comments started coming, I thought, man, we can't just let those go. We're going to have to address them. And if somebody's interested in that question, there might be a lot of people interested in it. So we're going to take them and we're going to answer them, and we're going to answer them truthfully. You know, so feel free to make a comment, ask a question, anything you want to do in that regard. I just want you to know that I'm. When I first started doing this, I was a little apprehensive, but now I'm thinking, I'm really excited about it. I can't believe the interest in the war and the interest that people have. You know what? I'll learn from you, and maybe you can learn a little something from me, and we'll go down the road together, and we'll get a better idea of what's going on. So I want to thank you. Deo Vindici. That means God will vindicate. Love y'all. Have a great night. Bye.